All right, here's one thing you might not have known about the climate crisis. It has a lot to do with food. A new report conducted by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change warns that if the crisis is not addressed, things like rising temperatures, extreme weather, and land degradation could trigger a global food crisis. Let me just tell you a bit about this. More than 100 scientists involved in the report took a close look at two factors: how agriculture would be affected by global warming and how food production could actually contribute to climate change down the road. The United Nations panel concluded that if average global temperatures rise 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, climate-related risks to health, livelihoods, food security, water supply, human security, and economic growth are projected to increase. This is fairly logical. You can imagine how this could be the case, right? If there are floods and severe weather events and fires and droughts, you can imagine how food, which grows on the earth, can be affected by that, and that would affect security because there'd be refugees and people moving all over the world. And then there's the obvious issue: severe weather. We know more frequent and devastating hurricanes, flooding, wildfires, droughts. They cause crops and livestock around the world to suffer. But here's where the health risks come in. The report found that when there's more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, the quality of nutrients in certain crops actually decreases. It's important to remember, though, food production adds to the problem as well. The panel notes that agriculture and other land uses make up about 13% of the world's CO2 emissions. A lot of people don't think about that. Making food emits carbon in some cases, and that makes for a complicated and vicious cycle. So the question is, what is the solution to this? Joining me now is Lewis Ziska. He's a climate scientist and a plant physiologist who says he quit the Trump administration's U.S. Department of Agriculture because his research was suppressed. Dr. Ziska, thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much.
What does your research being suppressed look like? What does that mean?
I've been with the USDA for over 25 years, and typically, before you submit a paper, you have to go through a review process. And we did this. We had been working with scientists both in China and in Japan, looking at the effects of rising carbon dioxide on rice nutrition. And got some very interesting results. We sent the paper for approval. We sent it off to Science Advances. The paper was accepted. It went through peer review, few bits and pieces here and there, and then it's ready to come out. Now, Science Advances calls us as authors and says, hey, we think this is going to get a lot of media attention. Why don't you do a press release? So we do a press release, we send it in, and then the next day we get a call saying, oh no, they object to this. And say, what do you mean?
To the press release or the actual submission?
They object to the paper. They say that the data in the paper do not support the conclusions of the paper. And that's unusual. That had never happened before. I didn't know quite how to react to that. I guess if I was a cartoon, there'd be a little light bulb that went on over my head that said, this isn't about the science anymore. This is something different. Yeah. And here you have a paper that shows...
Were they questioning the facts of the research or the conclusions?
They were questioning the facts of the data in the paper, and they were also objecting to the conclusions of the paper. For what it's worth, Harvard basically did the same experiment, Sam Myers' group, and showed that the data are in fact correct, that there's going to be these issues coming forward.
What's controversial about the effect of carbon on rice nutrition?
I honestly don't know. We're still looking at this. But the bigger issue here, Ari, is that we have sort of two groups. We have farmers who are actually, as you mentioned, undergoing the effects of climate change, uncertainty, extreme events occurring, you know. And then
they are frontline environmentalists in many cases.
And in many cases, they absolutely are. And then you have the group at the federal level. You have folks at Economic Research Service, at the National Institute of Food and Ag Research Service. Good people, smart scientists who want to help, who have the expertise to bring to this problem. And then through the middle of all this, you have the politics of it. And that's so frustrating because you want to put that aside. You want to take the science. You want to take the technology and begin to address some of these basic issues. If the climate is changing, what does that mean in terms of new pests and diseases that farmers might face? How do I manage my farm in a way that will reduce my vulnerability to extreme events? There are basic issues here that need to be looked at, and we can't do it because it's politics.
So let me ask you about the motivation. I'm a concerned citizen, right? I'm worried about the earth warming. I'm worried about droughts and hurricanes and dangers and food shortages. You're a scientist. What do you get for being on the wrong side of this thing? What's the motivation for working against good science that is going to help us figure this out?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure I know the absolute answer for that. I suspect the motivation is different depending on the group that you go to. I know fossil fuel industry, of course, has their own motivations for denying the science. But I'll always point to other businesses. People in the food business, for example, Kraft Foods, Unilever, others, are very concerned about climate change. They want to know, what does it mean for the quality of my food? What does it mean for the food chain
because
itself?
If the nutritional value in rice or grains or anything else is decreasing, that's actually important to governments, to food companies, to communities.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because then the same amount of food does not provide the same amount of nutrition, the same amount of health that you can expect from that. And there are ramifications for that. And one of the ramifications we saw in our paper is that if you were a poor country, people in Bangladesh, for example, get almost 2/3 of their calories from rice.
Right.
So they're going to be impacted more by a CO2 influence on rice than, say, someplace
and ultimately that affects us all.
Economically, more affluent, that has a more diverse diet. And yes, economically that hurts us all, because what happens is that if you're more affected and you're poor, you do what people have done throughout civilization. You get up and you leave. Yep. And everything from the unprecedented drought in Central America and the caravans that are moving to what happened in Syria, it's really a harbinger of things to come. And that's one of the things that concerns us as plant scientists, as agriculturalists. We want to try and prevent that from happening.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.